Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Hello, my name is John Palmer, and I am a home brewer.
I like this one the best.
I do, too.
That's good.
That's a good one. You've been working. You've been thinking. Yeah. So you got some appearances coming up. Where are you going to be where people can experience you in all your glory in person?
Well, let's see. I just got done with the Southern California Homebrewers Fest, which was a blast. I mean, it always is every year. Met a lot of new people this year. We went from 800 last year to 1,200 this year.
Wow!
And met a bunch of people. Like a lot
all
of great
those
friends.
400 wanted to come and see you. Is that what you're implying?
That's what they said anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't doubt it.
What?
I wouldn't doubt it.
No. Yeah, the wife and kids still do, but what the heck.
What do they know?
Yeah. But, that was a really good time.
I mean, you got to question your wife's, just mental state, just right off the start. And I don't mean to insult her, but after all, she did marry you, right? So right there,
questionable.
You should get questionable
or
questionable
opportunistic,
actions.
The way depending on how you look at it.
What, you marrying her? Yes.
No, I mean, when I asked her,
you saw your opportunity and you grabbed it.
Yeah. Well, like when I asked her this last week or a week before, it's like, hey, hon, I was thinking of going out early on Friday night this year. Sure, fine, whatever. So, I mean, I clearly
she wants you to be happy.
Yes, that's right.
That's the reason right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where are you going to be?
Coming up next is going to be NHC.
NHC, right, out in Minneapolis.
Out in Minneapolis, I'll be there. I'm coming out Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday, all right.
Planning on being at the BN anniversary party.
Yes.
That is, if y'all will tell me where it is. And,
we didn't tell you yet, Palmer.
We may.
It's in Chicago.
Ah,
yeah.
Good.
We'll meet you there.
Just take a taxi.
That's right. They're close. Minneapolis, Chicago.
Right. They're right next to each other. All those places are real close out there.
I'm going to do that Wednesday night, and then on Sunday after the conference, I'm taking a puddle jumper down to Milwaukee, and I'm going to Northern Brewer in the afternoon to do a book signing there. From I guess they're open till 2, I think, or I don't know. But I'll get there about 11:30, and stay until closing.
Very cool.
And doing book signing on Sunday. What was it, June 20th or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, Justin and I went to the grand opening of that Milwaukee store, and it was awesome. It's a beautiful store, great people working there, and a lot of great customers. We got to meet people from all around the area. Came out to greet us, and we went out to there's a number of great places to get beer out there, and dining, and it's just really, really nice.
Well, and for the BN party, they just expanded to a new 6,000 square foot warehouse. They held off putting anything in it so that we could do our party there with them.
All right.
How cool is that? So we're doing it in a big empty warehouse with them.
Right. So when you go to buy your products from Northern Brewer in the future, they'll have been like stored on top of piles of vomit from the BN party.
Who knows? Shat may have slept on your products.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
your sack of grain.
Hopefully, we'll get some Palmer vomit in there.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
That's good.
Well, and it was at that grand opening that I really got to know John Blickman a lot better, and became the sponsor of this show. And I really appreciate it. It's the first place I got to check out one of the top tier systems. They were using it there at the Milwaukee. When you get there, they got a whole big room off to one side that's got a brew system in it, and like a stove and a hood and a refrigerator and like classroom space. Really cool. And so I checked it out for the first time then, and I was actually very impressed. And at that point, I wanted me one of them top tier systems. It's well engineered. Is immediately what came to my mind. Lots of and good engineering to me is a simple design, but with a lot of little simple that seem simple when you see them, and you're like, well, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, I mean,
but make brewing much easier.
Yeah, the way they're designed, you run your hands over it and feel the nipples on the pipes. It's a top equipment.
What is wrong with him sometimes? I don't know. It's great.
That's the engineer in him,
Yeah.
I like the nipples on the pipes.
I feel kind of bad for Palmer because he spent like the last year building his own system. And now he has a top tier system, and that thing, the other one's just collecting dust. Yeah.
Throw it away.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad. I mean, what can I say?
You're stoked, right?
You spent a lot of time feeling the nipples on that system.
Yeah.
You have one system for feeling the nipples and one for brewing beer.
There you go.
It's like a new bike,
Right.
It's,
you feel it
the
a
old
lot.
bike was good. The new bike's better.
Okay.
Right. Well, then
a little different.
a little different. Myself, I'm going out to Australia, do the Beer and Brewer Expo in Melbourne. I'm actually stopping in New Zealand first. Auckland, May 17th through the 19th, and then in Melbourne, the 19th through the 22nd or 23rd. Come out and meet up with us there, and then I'm off to on a giant road trip with Peter Simons. He's coming out. I've been working on the RV for a month, getting it all dialed in, and we're going to go from the Long Shot in San Francisco to the NHC in Minneapolis, and we're going to take 8+ days to get there. 9 days to get there, and we are going to do at least 15 stops at different breweries along the way. I've posted the information in the events section of the Brewing Network forum. That's where you can find it. And it lists all the locations, the approximate times we think we'll get there. I'll try and keep that as up to date as possible. If you think there's a better stop for us than what we've listed, go ahead and contact me. That's happened a couple of times. People said, hey, you really got to check this out. And they've got a strong presence, one place or another. Absolutely. We'll show up there, and, some clubs are bringing out all their members, and we're going to have a big old party, and some of the breweries are doing something special, and, we're going to have a good old time. So if you get a chance, and people ask, would you mind if I brought a book for you to sign? Yeah, bring whatever. Bring the roll of toilet paper you want signed. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
as long as it's not a check saying,
right,
a summons or something like that.
That's going to be fun.
A lot of people were asking for you at the Southern California Homebrew Fest last weekend.
Oh, God, and I so wanted to go. And I actually arranged it, and then the site came open, and I'm just like, all right, well, I'll let the wife know, and then...
Well, a lot of them did figure out it was just me using a different voice,
Right, doing the show. But, I'm going to be gone about a month out of the next two.
Right.
More than a month out of the next two. And it's just not right to the family to be gone, to add yet another time gone. And I got a friend, we've done this boat trip for, 10 years, and... the final one is this year, and I'm missing that too. I was like, look, I can't afford the time, away for the family. I've already committed way too much. So I have loads of fun. I really love doing that stuff, but I got to have a little bit of moderation. Plus, I'm going to the GABF this year. Got the yeast book coming out, so that'll be one of the first places you can pick it up. There's just a lot to do.
Well, I encourage you to come out and meet Jamil on his trip. And I'll tell you why. One of the things I was kind of surprised to hear a lot at the SoCal Fest was people after they met us, they said, I'm real surprised you guys are all down to earth. You guys are real down to earth. And I thought, really? Do we come off that way? People think we're sitting in this studio because we have a studio and a radio show that we're not the same as every other homebrewer.
Just because the toilet is made of gold. Really?
I encourage you to go out and have a beer with Jamil. You will be pleasantly surprised. He's a lot of fun. So on this tour, go to like you said, go to that beer events in the forum, and I think you'll find he's a lot of fun to hang out with. So meet him out. This is your chance.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get back into our high gravity brewing series. Back after this.
Right. Brew smart.
Brew Strong. This is Brew Strong.
Cutting-edge equipment from Blickman Engineering is designed by brewers to make your brew day shorter, more enjoyable, and to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tail Wagon Amber Ale and Catherine the Great Imperial Stout, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and happy hour all day Mondays. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
And now, Northern Brewer brings you another installment of The Time Brewers.
When last we left our heroes, they found themselves in 1842 in the province of Bohemia.
Yo, this era jerky. All the beers is murky.
What ho, friends, a male alewife.
I don't know what I'm doing, so I got this dark malt, yeah? More stinky dark beer, yeah.
No, sir. Please, wait. Just a moment.
Aye, a package from the future from Northern Brewer.
Use the Pilsner malt, my good man. And these Sats hops, sucker. They ain't noble like Queen Victoria, but you can use Sterling from Portland to Astoria. Let your wort caramelize and let melanoidins harmonize in a long boil. Keep your starter under cover with aluminum foil. Boo.
And useth thou some bog myrtle.
Northern Brewer is your one-stop homebrew supplier throughout the entire fermento chronosphere. The widest selection of quality malt, hops, yeast, $7.99 flat rate shipping, and get your nasty-ass bog myrtle back to the dark ages, Brother Abelard.
Hey, this golden lager with the happy hop's pretty damn good. Thanks, Time Brewers. Thanks, Northern Brewer.
Our work here is done, my friends. Now, to wherever we are next needed.
Tune in next time for the continuing adventures of the Time Brewers.
Hilo, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Yeah! Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
Yeah!
We're talking high-gravity brewing. So our first episode in this series, we went over why it's important to focus on the fermentability of the wort that you're producing when you're making a high-gravity beer, and how to determine how fermentable your extracts might be while you're using to make high-gravity beers. So the question comes up: what about when you're an all-grain brewer? There's a lot of issues that come up when you're trying to make a really high-gravity beer. Everything from getting enough grain into the mash tun to runoff problems to, fermentability. It's something that I think causes a bunch of issues for people, and getting a high enough concentration even of sugars so that you hit your numbers. If you're trying to make a 1.200 beer, you're not going to get that straight out of the mash tun. It's going to be a little too thin for that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the high. I mean, first runnings from typical mash ratios, 1.5, 2 quarts per pound. You're looking at about 1077 as your first runnings, and that's that's as high as it's going to get. When you sparge that, it's going to come out lower. So, can you take 10 gallons of 1077 and boil it down to 5 gallons of 10 20 120? Yeah, you can, but that's going to be it may not be the flavor you want. So
right, you're going to develop a lot of melanoids, and you're going to end up you could boil it down to syrup if you want, but not necessarily the best beer for you.
So that's why last show we were talking about adding malt extract or adding simple sugars to kick that gravity up to what you want your high gravity OG to be. But at the same time, you want to control your fermentability, and so I guess that's what we're going to talk about now is how do you control the fermentability of an all malt or all grain wort. Right.
Well, and one thing that you're talking about, the malt to the grain to water ratio and the concentration coming out of that. Let's say you drop that down from 1.5 quarts per pound to 1 quart per pound. What sort of concentration are you getting then? What's the issues with going with less water in your mash?
Well, I think you can get up to like 1082, 1085-ish if you drop it down to 1 quart per pound. But what's also going to suffer at that point, you're not going to have as fermentable a wort at those high gravities as you will if you were at a lower or I should say, if you're at a higher water to grist ratio. The fermentability of a highly concentrated wort in the mash tun goes down.
It's not a major effect, but it does affect fermentability, and you'll need to take that into account. If you've got the one recipe that you've been doing and you expect to get a certain fermentability, you're going to need to adjust your temperature, or add some simple sugars or something to adjust for that slightly less fermentable wort from a highly concentrated mash.
Yeah, you could by not taking that into account, you could easily end up with a 5-point finishing difference, which would be very noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and what about when you're concentrating your mash like that, using less water? What about the speed of conversion?
The initial conversion is fast because your enzymes are concentrated, but your sugars rapidly concentrate, and you don't get as good a conversion as you could if you had a higher water to grist ratio.
Mm-hmm.
You got, in other words, you've got to give some room in that mash, in that wort, for the sugars to come out
into solution.
Yeah, even if your starches are all totally soluble, the enzymes are going to reach an equilibrium of sugar to starch if that is very concentrated, and you're not going to get quite the degree of conversion that you would expect to get.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping your mash ratio a little higher, say 1.5 quarts per pound, at least is going to keep both your fermentability up, and it'll keep your conversion up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes, if you're limited, you're trying to brew a real high gravity beer, you're going to be limited by the size of your mash tun to how much, grain you can get in there, and you're going to pack all the grain in you possibly can, trying to get that gravity up.
Mm-hmm.
But, what we're trying to say here is that you are going to be taking, 1 step or 2 steps forward and 1 step back when it comes to achieving these goals, because of the concentration consequences.
Mm-hmm. Well, one trick that you're talking about, mash tun limits, the commercial breweries are often designed around normal gravity beers. They're designed with the idea of how much grain you need to put in this thing to fill the kettle, to fill the fermenters, and sell as much regular type of beer as you can. And they're not designed to do these high gravity beers. Excuse me. Well, my friend Morgan Cox, he's head brewer owner, Ale Industries. He taught me a little trick, which is load up the mash tun and then go ahead and do a recirculation for a little bit. And when you do that, the grain tends to kind of settle down a little bit, and you gain a few inches of water on top of your mash. Once you do that, you can go ahead and load in some more grain and do a little bit better, and fill that mash tun all the way to the top. So that was one good trick that he taught me that I think is worth passing on.
Yeah, maximize your capability there.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about the Blickman system. Also, is really easy to swap out small pot with a bigger pot or a larger pot, and I can get more grain into the mash again. I like doing less of small beers and then more of big beers, and the reason I like that is because I like to age the beers and have them around for a long time, let them develop over time. Big beers tend to be good for that sort of thing. So that's why the kind of reverse thinking on what people normally do.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
you get 10 gallons, so it'll last long enough to really let you age it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Okay, so besides settling out the grain, through recirculation and adding more, what are some other tricks people can do to make high gravity wort given a limited mash tun size? What's another trick?
Well, converting this recipe to basically a partial mash, where you're planning on taking 3/4 of your fermentables or half of your fermentables from the all grain mash, but then using pale malt extract to supplement the gravity, adding it in to the boil kettle as extract, not diluting it down, but just adding this liquid malt extract or dry malt extract directly to your boil pot. That'll increase your gravity quite quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, with the high-quality malt extracts that they have available in all malt wort, and high gravity beer, you're really not going to notice.
There's not going to be any extract flavor to worry about in a.
Right.
If you pick your extract correctly, fresh liquid malt extract, or dry pale malt extract, you won't notice a flavor difference at all.
Right. Yeah, it's all about fermentation, anyways. All right. So, and now
I guess another technique is no sparge versus typical batch sparging or fly sparging. Use those first runnings only. Put in 20 pounds of malt to your mash tun,
right,
and draw off that first wort, and that's your beer right there. That's going to be about 1075 to 1080 points. Original gravity, and if you boil that down, you can hit 10100 if you want.
So if you're shooting for more than that, really your only options are boil it more or add some sort of extract,
right,
or simple sugars.
Right.
It's really the only ways to get to those really high gravity beers. I would almost say, if you're looking at brewing something where you've exceeded the limits of what the mash can give, that's probably a good time to start considering adding simple sugars to make up the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because
otherwise you're not going to get the attenuation you need out of that wort to make it really drinkable.
Yeah,
it's going to be barley wines are great, and they're all typically all malt. They have a high finishing gravity, high starting gravity, high alcohol, but they're made to be sipped in small quantities. If you're trying to brew a high gravity quaffing beer, as you say, Jamil, you need simple sugars to help drive that fermentability up, or the attenuation down.
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts on doing getting it out of a smaller mash tun, getting a high gravity wort?
No.
Well, what about let's say your mash tun won't hold as much grain as you need. You could do 2 mashes with half as much grain, right? And you do the mashes back to back.
Yep.
Fill your brew kettle up only halfway with each runoff, and then you can concentrate it down at that point. Or if you got a friend, you have your friend come over and do 2 mash tuns or 2 boil kettles or whatever it might be. You can throw some extra equipment at it to get that done. You could also start boiling early. If you're going to do a long boil, start boiling early as you're running off, and run off into the it's hard to keep the boil going when you run off, but you could boil some down, add more wort, and boil some down, add more wort, and that way make a big batch of something that you need to boil for a long period of time. We get into that more when we talk about the boil itself, but that would be another trick, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of like a double bock recipe there.
Now, what about, let's get back to fermentability, because it's so important to high-gravity beers. But what we'll do is let's take a short break, and when we come back, tell us about fermentability and the mash and all that. Back after this.
Keep your carboy cap on. This is Brew Strong. We'll be right back.
I've been brewing 17 years. I was kind of shocked to see that number. Don't do the math on my age.
This month, More Beer wants you to meet Chris Graham.
I started when I was in college, and I've just fell in love with it.
Partner, Chief Operating Officer, and Certified Beer Geek.
I have just a ton of passion for homebrewing. I think it's such a creative outlet, both ingredients and art and process and technical equipment.
Chris is here to tell us about life at More Beer.
What I love about working at More Beer is the people. Their passion for products, innovating new products, looking at pro brewers, how they do it, or just seeing an opportunity and saying, hey, we should make that. and then carrying over to teaching people, and that's another part of our passion, so that they can make the best beer possible.
Now, how about this month's specials?
5 of my favorite things to brew with right now are the digital refractometer. It makes taking samples so much faster than a regular hydrometer. The Scotch Ale, because it's just an amazing malty beer, especially if you let it age. The gas and beer quick disconnect sets. It makes setting up a kegerator so much faster. And my 1000 brewing sculpture. It's fast, clean, and easy to brew on. And then there's the Grand Box. This is a box they named after me, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Gotta have it.
Get to know Chris this month at morebeer.com.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamil and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard, and polish your style accuracy with Jamil. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmaster's database if you want, and the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmaster's Warehouse is run the way a homebrewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmaster's Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
BN Army members, are you looking for a discount on hops? Keep listening. Nico's Homebrew Supply at nicobrew.com has hops by the ounce and by the pound. Choose from varieties like Amarillo, Centennial, East Kent Goldings, Hallertauer, Simcoe, Summit, Tomahawk, Warrior, Willamette, and more. And adding new varieties all the time, many for less than $20 a pound. Whether a couple ounces at a time or an 11-pound bag, all hops are shipped vacuum sealed and frozen straight to you. Nico's Homebrew Supply offers store-wide $5 flat rate shipping and won't waste your money on unnecessary overhead or advertising. They're going bare bones and passing the savings on to you. The staff at Nico's Homebrew Supply loves to brew and is committed to keeping homebrewing affordable and accessible to anyone who wants to join in this great hobby. And for a limited time, use coupon code BNARMY at checkout for a Brewing Network discount. Visit nicobrew.com. That's Niko brew.com for your hops and more. nicobrew.com, your bare bones buddy in the brewing business.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. All right, so John, I've got a ton of. What, you having one in the can?
No, just
bottle.
Yeah, what was that?
A little Firestone Pale Ale.
Oh, attaboy.
All right,
Pale
the Pale 31.
Yep.
Hey, I just interviewed Matt Brynelson about that very beer. Coming up on Can You Brew It in the not-too-distant future. That, Union Jack, and a couple other beers. It's going to be a Firestone Walker Ganza? Artois. Firestone Walker Artois.
He's fun to listen to. I bet those were good interviews. He's very well-spoken.
He knows so much. You know, after the interviews were done, did another 20 minutes of him telling me all sorts of stuff about, the hops and the hop industry and brewing. And
nice.
I could have gone for hours.
Oh, he's hard to get to, but when you get him, keep him around.
He's wonderful.
Yeah, cool guy.
Oh, and I interrupted him at home, on the weekend. I'm like, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I've been hard to get hold of. So, did an hour and a half of chatting with him. So
yeah, a generous guy. Yeah.
He is. He's fantastic. I love that guy, and just an awesome brewer, and awesome at designing new beers. Everything he comes out with is just to die for. Really is. I don't think he's coming out with anything that you wouldn't say, oh my God, I'd give my swollen right nut away for that.
If you were going to go gay, it'd be with Brindleson.
Oh yeah. I may already have.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. He may not know it, but
right.
Personally, in my own mind.
At some point during that interview, you did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's not a bad-looking man either. That's what I can tell you.
Palmer shut right up.
Oh, Palmer's just jealous. He's
jealous.
Like, no, Matt's mine.
I live closer. Maybe. Anyway.
Physically, not mentally like I do. I'm right there in his back pocket. All right.
Awesome segue, because I was going to ask you about
something really
the
personal.
Union Jack. Yeah, no, the Union Jack recipe.
Yeah.
What's his OG and FG on Union Jack?
I don't have my notes with me.
Is it a high gravity beer though? Is it considered? Would you put it in this category?
Yeah.
You would.
I would.
So it's over 1050 or so.
Yeah, it's like 7%, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And it finishes out like 10-16 or something like that. I think he said a little less than 4 Plato. I think he said. It's hard for me to remember at this point. You'll have to listen to the Can You Brew It, Palmer.
Well, I was going to say that
that'd be one of our smarter listeners. No,
yes, but I was going to say if you had that info, that would give everyone a real good benchmark for how fermentable can you make an all malt port.
Right. Well, and like I mentioned in the previous show, one of the things they're doing is 145 degrees Fahrenheit in the mash for an hour to try and make sure that it's as fermentable as possible. And he was saying, if you can't get it fermentable enough, swap out some of the malt with simple sugar to make sure that you do get the right kind of attenuation you need for this beer. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that they do for Vinny Russian River for their Pliny the Elder is they use some simple sugar, like about 10%, and get that thing to attenuate down to 10.10, 10.9. All right. So what are the tips and tricks for making a mash as fermentable as possible, or fermentable to the right degree that you want for your big beer?
Well, temperature is your main control. You want to have that mash temperature. Give it a good long rest, and the beta amylase range, 145 to 150. The problem with that for everyone is that barley starch doesn't really become soluble until you hit 150. Finish becoming soluble when you hit 150. So in the 140 to 150 degree range where beta amylase works best, only half to 3/4 of your starches are actually soluble at that point. So you're going to get those broken down as best as you can with a nice long beta rest. And then you've got to ramp it up to 150, 155, even 160 F temperature to finish solubilizing those starches and get the rest of the starches converted to sugars by alpha amylase and any beta that you can manage to drag along. Because denaturing is, it's a gradual thing too. I mean, as you pass 150, 90% of your enzymes are going to be denatured, but you're still having a few hanging on, and that are going to work. So give it a good long time below 150, and then give it another good time above 150. What am I saying?
Well, that's
show those enzymes a good time. That's the bottom line.
That's what Matt was saying. Not show the enzymes a good time, but he said that after their rest at 145, they ramp up to 155 to ensure that they convert all the rest of the starches, and then on to mash out. And one of the things you might want to do is 145, stay there until you're sure you've converted as much as you can convert, and then very slowly ramp it up. You get around 149, 150, and you might hold it there for a little longer, and then go the rest of the way up to 155. If you shoot up from 145 to a mash out of 168 rapidly, you might end up leaving some unconverted starches in your wort, and or if you're going up, you may add a lot of unconvertible sugars as well.
Yeah. I bet there's a lot of brewers out there, Jamil, that are asking, well, how are you doing this? This is where a direct fired mash tun is very handy.
Uh-huh.
It's harder to do with infusions. That you can do discrete steps, 145 to 155 with infusions.
Well, especially if you are already pushing the limits of your mash tun, doing an infusion. A couple of problems. One is you don't have the room for it if you're pushing the limits, and the other is even if you have the room for it, you're thinning out your mash, and that could make it difficult to reach the target gravity that you're shooting for. Mm-hmm. My Blickman Top Tier has a burner for the mash tun as well, so I can fire my mash if I want while I'm recirculating.
Yep.
So that would be helpful.
That works very well. You can stir and heat and watch the brewmometer on the side of the boil kettle. Watch that temperature rise.
Right, and just go gentle on the heat. Don't blast away like you're launching a rocket. Keep it gentle, like you're just trying to heat up a delicate sauce, a béarnaise.
There you go. Say that.
What?
It sounds good the way you say that.
Well, thank you. You like the way I say béarnaise?
Yeah, it makes me think of scrambled eggs.
Okay. Or tossed salad, or who knows what. All right. So now, what about? What else about the conversion of the mash? Do I need to wait longer for a big beer? Let's say normally I get full conversion at 150 degrees in 45 minutes with an average strength beer, and average, a 1.5 quart per pound ratio. Let's say all of a sudden I'm up to, I'm making a high strength beer, and I'm at a 1 quart to pound ratio, and I'm still at 150.
Yeah.
Do I need to wait longer for this to convert? I mean, really, it's just density.
As you decrease the water to grist ratio, increase that concentration. Yeah, you're going to want to give a little more time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're mashing 10 pounds versus mashing 20 pounds at the same grist ratio, it's going to convert in the same amount of time. It's because it's ratio dependent, not total grain dependent. But as you say, as you start driving that water to grist ratio down to 1 quart per pound, where it's getting thick, getting a lot more concentrated, you're going to want to give it some more time. You may want to give, go from a 20-minute rest, for beta amylase to, a half-hour rest or 45 minutes. You may want to increase your total mash time from an hour to an hour and a half as you increase that concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Use your senses. Look at the wort. Smell the wort. Smell the mash. Look at it. Is it clearing? Is it still cloudy?
Do you see dead people in the wort? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
that'd be the sixth sense. It's the kind of
I like
raucous, raucous humor.
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. Palmer didn't like it as much as I did, I think.
No, he's cracking up.
Oh, good. Okay.
I was just trying to think. Yeah. The immediate corollary is I see stupid people in the world. Yeah.
All right.
Of course, that tends to be your own reflection, unfortunately.
That's right.
Yes.
Sounds like my brew day.
That's who I see when I see look in the mirror.
Stupid people.
Yes, I see stupid people, especially when I look in the mirror.
That'd be a good short film.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Use your senses to, you taste the wort, see how viscous it's becoming, or the mash, the liquid above the mash. If it's running like water, it is. Mm-hmm. If it's thickening, you can tell it's thickening up, then, you're getting conversion. Now, one of the other things that that I get questions on is enzymes. Now, what about adding supplemental enzymes to the mash for high gravity beer? Like, if people want to use Beano, because we've mentioned a few times, I know that there are enzymes available to the pro market that you might be able to get your hands on. How do you determine the right amount? The pro stuff comes with instructions, but most of these guys want to use Beano. How do you know the right amount of Beano and time? And I guess experience is really your guide.
Yeah.
But Beano, can you offer a starting point for people?
Unfortunately, not really. I haven't used Beano.
I use Beano all the time. Unfortunately, I'm swallowing it, but
yeah. What Beano is it's an oligosaccharide enzyme.
It's not illegal.
No, oligo.
Okay.
OLIGO. Oligosaccharide, meaning more than 3. It's you got your malt.
They
you
just
got
say more than 3.
Yeah, well, that's true. Glucose, maltose, maltotriose, maltotetriose. When you get above maltotetriose or 4-sugar chain, then you got your oligosaccharides. Which in what Beano does, it is a amylase type enzyme that breaks these dextrins down into simple sugars, glucoses, perhaps maltoses, and so you're going to start really working on the dextrins in the malt. And that would be an effective way of increasing the fermentability. I don't have much experience in using that though in the mash. In fact, none.
But I would say, you can use it in the mash. You can also use it in the boil. I wouldn't use it post-boil. You want to use it before, so you can boil it and denature it. Because if you use it post-boil, it just keeps going and going and going, and you're going to end up with water, alcoholic water. It ends up really thin. So, in the mash or in the boil, I'd start out with. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 of those little bean-shaped tablets, maybe, and I don't know, how much is a gutful?
Seriously though, 4, 5, 6. There's no real. That's a big difference. 4, 5, or 6, right? I mean. There's no
5.
real equation. You just kind of go for it with the
right.
Beano.
Well, it depends on the size of your mash.
Okay.
Take a gut full of mash.
Yeah.
And,
that's how much you need.
You're gonna have to time how long, how many you put in, what temperature you're at,
right.
and how long you let them sit there until you mashed out or started the boil. And see what you get, and then plot it, and just figure it out for yourself. Because there's no way of knowing. There's no equation in the package. Telling you.
Although the commercial products have some guidelines with them, and if you can get a hold of one of those, then that might be the way to go. And I would do a ratio of volume of mash to tablets of Beano. Or drops of Beano. They also have a liquid product, and then to go that route, and you should be able to kind of figure out how well it's working and the amount of time. And so if you're getting beers that aren't are being too viscous and not attenuating enough, then that's one option. The other thing is really recipe design. So take a look at Brewing Classic Styles. And the high gravity beers in there, I'll give you an idea. I mean, we tend to push the boundaries and try and get something big and viscous, but still drinkable. And so that gives you some ideas of what's kind of a good ratio of specialty malts and simple sugars and mash temperatures and all that stuff. So that's one way to also kind of get an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about sparging? High gravity beers, a lot of grain in the mash tun, thicker ratio. What about sparging? Is there any special trick? Is it more difficult?
Not really. You're going to want to keep your sparge water temperature, high, 175, 180 F, to help you extract those sugars. I mean, when you're deliberately generating runnings that are like 1080, at the limit of your 1085, at a real high malt concentration.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be harder to extract those sugars well, if they're cooler versus warmer. So keeping your sparge water temperature up, keeping your mash tun well insulated, keep those sugars fluid is going to help your extraction.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you're kind of I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Your first runnings are your first runnings. So if you're brewing a 1050 beer, you put in X amount of malt at a particular malt ratio, or a typical malt ratio 1.5, 2 quarts per pound, and you're extracting a first runnings that's 1070, 1075, and then you sparge, and as you sparge, that's diluting down, and you're adding another 3, 4, 5 gallons of 1030, 1040 OG versus that initial 1070. It all kind of averages out, and you get your 1050 at the end of the boil.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to mash and extract a wort for a high gravity beer, generally you're going to kind of go a no sparge route, where you're just collecting that first running at 1080, and and boiling that and concentrating that up, so that 1080, or 6 gallons at 1080 would boil down to 5 gallons at 1080 to 90, 93.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have my handy dandy calculator with me, but something like that. And as you go for higher and higher gravities, you're going to be boiling this same 1080 first runnings for longer periods of time to reduce its volume and increase the gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sparging. I guess if you're trying to generate a high gravity wort, sparging is not your friend.
Mm-hmm.
You want to minimize the amount of sparging you do.
So you might even do a batch sparge type of process, or essentially, and skip the other batches. You're doing a no sparge, and if you're doing no sparge, you can go ahead and cut the mash. You can cut lines through the mash to within 2 or 3 inches of the bottom of the mash tun, or of your false bottom. And then, since everything's been well recirculated and all that, and it's all pretty much homogeneous all the way through, you can go ahead and cut the mash and just let it all run out, and makes it running off the liquid a little easier. And if you are going to sparge, you can just go ahead and add more water back and recirculate it and do that again. One more thing that before we wrap and get to questions here, one more thing that Morgan at Ale Industries mentioned to me that I had never seen before. He said he makes a swan neck in his hose that he's running off through, and raises that up above the loop, up above the mash. and uses that to control a nice, very slow, controlled runoff. And the reason being, if you run off too quickly with a very deep mash, it tends to get stuck.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
taller your mash to the width, the taller your ratio, the more likely it is to get stuck. And by doing this, you can really maintain a nice, slow, steady progression. If you have a lot of quick pulses of runoff, if you're opening and closing the valve real quick, you can pack that mash down and get stuck. So that was one of the tricks. He said he found it in some old brewing text, and I thought that was actually pretty interesting tip. I hadn't heard that before, so might be worth checking out. And again, one of the things to keep on hand if you're not hitting your numbers, some DME, some quality DME. You'll never know. Like a couple of pounds of DME in a big beer, you won't. All you'll know is that you hit your numbers with the DME. All right, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get to some questions from the chat. Back after this.
Brew right. Brew smart.
Brew Strong.
This is Brew Strong.
Organic ingredients. Fresh, clean, good for you, good for the planet. Seven Bridges has the best selection of organic ingredients, including over 27 varieties of organic hops at breworganic.com. Join their mailing list for special deals and regular updates. They've been brewing organic and serving organic brewers for 13 years. They can help you brew great organic beer. And Seven Bridges is the proud host of the 4th Annual National Organic Brewing Challenge, the only BJCP-sanctioned nationwide brewing competition just for organic beers. Take the challenge this fall for a chance to win great prizes, including stainless steel brew kettles and organic brewing ingredients. This year, the challenge will be judged in 2 locations: on the East Coast at Capital City Brewing in Arlington, Virginia, and on the West Coast at Gordon Biersch in San Jose, California. For complete details, visit breworganic.com/competition. Seven Bridges is cooperatively owned in awesome Santa Cruz, California. Everyone there is dedicated to great beer and people-friendly business practices. They offer environmentally friendly, fair trade, and fair wage brewing products whenever possible. Seven Bridges, breworganic.com. The cutting-edge equipment from Blickman Engineering is designed by brewers to make your brew day shorter, more enjoyable, and to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon. Keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew Free or Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in a can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian two-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to williamsbrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com.
Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing.
This is Brew Strong.
All right. I think we've got 2 or 3 more episodes coming up in this High Gravity Brewing series coming up. But our next show coming up, especially if you're listening live, is going to be a Q&A show. We decided to do one every third show because if you wait for us to answer all your questions on air, otherwise it's going to be years from now before we get to them all. So, people seem to like them, and we're able to knock out a bunch of questions. All right, so questions from the chat on High Gravity Brewing.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Two Dogs is in the chat room, and he wasn't paying attention, Jamil. So he missed you talking about adding DME to high gravity beer. And I'll give you his question in a second. I just want to point out on the Sunday session this week, so tomorrow, if you're listening live, we are doing a what do you do when you miss your numbers during your boil, during your brew. So we'll give you a lot of tips on how to do that. But Two Dogs, hey, his mash tun's not large enough to hold all the grain. Right. So is it possible to make up the extra gravity with DME?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what you want to do. Always have DME on hand just in case you miss gravity. You either want to have filtered water or DME on hand to adjust to make sure you're hitting the right kind of numbers that you're looking for. It affects hop utilization and a bunch of other things I'm sure you guys will cover really well tomorrow. Like John was saying earlier, there's a specific limit that you can reach with grain. And, if you want to get much past that, you're going to have to use either DME or some sort of sugar and or an extended boil to hit those numbers. So always have DME. Adding, 10, 20, 30% DME to any all-grain beer, you're really not going to have a problem. It's not going to end up in a bad beer or something like that.
Yeah, you won't notice it.
Okay. All right, and Who Ate All the Pies is in the chat room, one of our Aussie listeners.
Right.
And by the way, I found out
I heard
from
him on the anniversary on the awards show.
Oh yes, he deserves many awards.
He does.
I found out from another Aussie that Who Ate All the Pies is slang for a fat guy.
Oh.
It's a saying from a show or something. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but anyway, Who Ate All the Pies wants to know what should we be shooting for in the crush of your grain to get as much extraction as possible in high gravity mashing.
For the maximum extraction, it's essentially like a Congress mash, right, John? Where you grind it to powder, everything to flour, and then you'll get the most extraction. It's not the best for the beer.
Yeah, you'll get the most conversion the finer you grind. Getting full extraction from flour in a mash tun is very difficult because you'll tend to, especially in a big, deep mash, you're going to tend to compact the grain bed and not get any flow. Mm-hmm. So there, I think if you grind. I would recommend sticking with your normal grind. Mm-hmm. Don't try to grind it finer. If maybe double grind 20%, 30% of your grist. If you want to kick up your conversion a little bit more, get a little better extra, total extract out of that weight. But if you go if you start going finer than what you're used to, you're probably going to end up sticking your mash and not getting any extract at all. So.
Well, that's one thing I keep consistent is my grind. So, I don't change it for any of that stuff, and I keep it, if it works well and I'm getting the efficiency that I'm looking for in a regular strength beer, going to high gravity, I don't necessarily crush differently. I keep it the same. What you want is the husk, as much intact as possible with all the endosperm inside, broken up into as many pieces as possible without destroying the husk. Yeah. And when you have that, you got a good crush. And one of the things I find that people run into a problem getting efficiency, where efficiency drops on higher gravity beers, is either they're going with a really high density of grain to water. They've cut back on their water to get the grain in there, and it's so thick that they're not getting complete conversion. Or they are having problems running off, and they tend to get channeling. They're forcing it. They're cutting too deep, and then they end up with problems that way. So pay attention to those other aspects. Keep the crush the same. I think that delivers the best results. Yeah. All right.
That was it from the chat.
Cool. Well, that'll be a wrap then for this, working with grain in high gravity brewing. Like I said, next coming up, if you're listening live, is a Q&A session. We do these every third show. Gives you a chance to ask all the questions you want. And then we'll get back to our high gravity series. We're going to talk about the boil and hop utilization and more about working with extract and fermentation, aging, and all that good stuff. We'll cover it all in detail for you in future shows. If you get a chance, check out our sponsor, www.blickmanengineering.com. Great people, great products. You'll be impressed with their gear. I know I am. And if you also get a chance, check out the Brewing Network store. There's a lot of good products in there. Everything from glassware to books to wearable goods. If you're listening, I want you to buy a Brew Strong t-shirt. I want you to take it to the NHC and show up there, or one of our many stops that we're doing this summer, and come out and say hi. I'm wearing one. I love those shirts.
I'll wear one.
They're cool. And get a chance to meet John and I, and if you're wearing a Brew Strong shirt, we love you that much more. Yeah. If you're not, then we slightly hate you, but it's okay.
You might get cupped if you're wearing a Brew Strong shirt.
That's right. Yeah. Or at least cupped
if you wear a Brew Strong shirt, we'll sign your girlfriend.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we'll cup you a girlfriend. Don't worry. All right. So, but, there's lots of good products there as well. And anything you purchase, the bottom line helps out the Brewing Network stay on the air and provide this programming for you. And we'd appreciate it if you did. Until then, have a Merry Christmas, brew a lot of beer, and brew strong.
Keep reaching for the stars.